All right, what's going on, guys? So in this video, what we're going to be talking about is what are the things and the factors that make a fragrance expensive, okay? So what are all the factors that go into making a high price tag for a fragrance? These fragrances that we go out, we see that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? And we'll actually be surprised at what goes into creating a luxury fragrance. It's not only just the name on the bottle, and the funny thing is that I actually have the experience of creating fragrance brands and kind of being behind the scenes and understanding what goes into a business. And it was actually kind of interesting as I did my research and as I got that firsthand experience, what goes into it. Well, we're gonna get right into it. So the first factor that you're gonna have to think about is the rarity and the natural nature of some of the ingredients. Okay, so when you talk about luxury fragrances, they utilize rare natural ingredients that are difficult to source, one, and because they're difficult to source, it makes them harder and more expensive to produce. Okay, so when you think of some of the more notes, like one of the notes that are present in some of these higher end fragrances, they utilize things like ouds, ambergris, and notes like Bulgarian rose. And those are just some of the few to name, right? Well, if we take something like oud, which is a popular Middle Eastern fragrance note, it's kind of woodsy. Oud is derived from an agarwood tree and can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per pound to make due to its rarity. And then when you think about a note like ambergris, right? Ambergris is a rare substance and it comes from the sperm of whales. And then Bulgarian rose requires a massive amount of petals in order to produce just a small amount of fragrance oil. Okay, so while many fragrances use synthetic versions of these notes, luxury fragrance often rely on the real deal, high quality natural extracts that are far more costly to produce. So why all that matters is that when you talk about designer versus niche fragrances, one of the reasons why niche fragrances tend to be more costly, more pricey is because one, they first off are putting their namesake on fragrance, but let alone like designer brands like your Yves Saint Laurents, like your Dior's, like your Chanel's. They have something else that goes along with their brand, right? Whether it's makeup, whether it's clothes, whether it's shoes. Niche fragrance brands and pricier fragrance brands rely solely on making fragrances their moneymaker. Because of that, they have to utilize higher quality ingredients in the notes and in the fragrances that they make in order to really be able to have their fragrance stand out in the crowd. And then another thing, kind of especially that is a common trend amongst fragrances nowadays, especially amongst designers, is you hear a lot of people kind of make concerns slash complain about designer fragrances kind of all smell synthetic. They all kind of smell the same. They all kind of have the same scent DNA, the same scent profiles. But part of that is due to the fact a lot of these fragrance companies utilize the same notes. They utilize the same profile and they utilize the same scent ingredients, right? Even though you're using bergamot, iris, cardamom, largely it's all the synthetic versions of these notes. And so then they all can kind of smell a little bit blind to the nose versus when you go to a fragrance company or a niche fragrance company, they may utilize cardamom, but it's probably a higher quality version of cardamom. They may use rose, but it's the Bulgarian rose, which is gonna take more money to make. It's also gonna require more effort to make, but it's gonna yield a higher quality scent as a result, okay? So the first thing is the natural nature and the rarity of the fragrance ingredients that you're gonna be making, okay? Now, the second factor that goes into it is the longevity and the complex production processes that go into making these higher end fragrances, okay? So the production process itself can also contribute to the cost of a luxury fragrance due to the harvesting of these raw materials and distilling and blending. These processes are often far more time consuming and labor intensive than the mass producing market productions, right? So put simply, many luxury fragrances go through this aging process of really maturing and emulsifying the cologne, and where the scent is allowed to kind of fully mature over time. And it takes a little bit of a while. It can take weeks to make. Just like fine wine, this process also takes a long while to really yield a high quality product, right? And as a result, you do have a higher layer of depth of richness to the final product, right? The problem is also that While luxury fragrances are often made in smaller batches and really it takes much longer for them to make, each bottle is meticulously crafted and carefully checked for its quality, right? The companies, the perfumers, the people who work in these factories, they have to really make sure to iron and dot every T across it, and make sure that the fragrance is really done properly, is done well. There's not a whole lot of impurities in these niche fragrance brands, more often than not, right? This kind of attention to detail doesn't come cheap, and it contributes to the extensive nature of the fragrance. Second factor is the production quality that goes into these niche fragrances. First off, you're gonna hire probably a more established perfumer to make the cologne, to put your scent together, to put the scent profile together. And then whenever you talk about working in a factory where you're maturing the fragrance, you have to make sure that you give it that time it needs to age, which is why, you talk about a lot of these luxury fragrance brands, you talk about the richness, the high quality, the class, this luxury that goes into the scent profile. You get that because the time has been invested in making sure that you have a higher quality product. When you talk about a lot of these fragrances that kind of smell a little cheaper, is because there's not the attention to detail and emulsifying and kind of letting the fragrance mature. And as the result, people can kind of smell a lot of the impurities, right? You can smell, this fragrance smells a little synthetic, smells a little cheap, right? It's not necessarily that it's a bad fragrance, it's just the level of detail wasn't invested in it, and people can largely smell it, especially once you become someone who becomes a fragrance enthusiast. Some people, a lot of collectors are niche snobs. They're niche snobs not because they only like the niche fragrances, but they can smell the differences, especially as their nose has been exposed to so many different scents, so many different DNAs, so many profiles. Naturally, your nose can go blind to things that aren't as high in quality, and they pick up on things that are higher in quality. Your nose tends to gravitate towards those things. Even has been a little bit of the case for me. I can still appreciate designer fragrances, but for me, definitely, I've learned that I like the higher quality richness of a lot of these luxury brands, these niche brands, as they've started to be introduced, okay? And it sucks because, acquiring niche fragrances is way more pricey to get your hands on. Even if you do get them on discount, you're still running up quite a bit of a bill, but you will smell amazing. And a lot of these niche fragrances really do smell quite divine and quite pleasant to the nose, okay? Now, the third factor that goes into the price of your fragrance is going to be the craftsmanship and the perfumery expertise. So I kind of talked about this in the last point, but the main factor, or one of the main factors that drives up the cost, is the craftsmanship behind each fragrance. So obviously, most of these niche fragrance brands, most of these luxury fragrance brands are going to hire master perfumer or master noses, right, who have years, sometimes decades of experience of training and expertise. Their expertise in blending the fragrance's perfect scent and creating the perfect scent is kind of invaluable. I know a couple master perfumers that I know offhand: Alberto Morillas, Olivier Post, Jacques Post, right, Olivier Crest. So, these guys who have decades, have created so many popular fragrances over the years, over the decades. A lot of your Salvatore Ferragamos, a lot of your Acqua di Gios, a lot of your MFK, so on and so forth, and these master perfumers have put their names on it. They have all this practice, all this history, and you can kind of smell their expertise through the fragrance. So you can kind of know, once you really become a nerd about all this fragrance stuff, you kind of know whose scent DNA was behind certain fragrances. Like when you find out, oh, this is an Alberto Morillas fragrance, okay, he likes certain qualities. I know he's big into fresh and clean fragrances. Olivier Cresp, who does, I believe he does Chanel, I believe he does Jean Paul Gaultier, I believe he does a lot of these French fragrance brands. So there you go, right? But hiring the right nose is kind of paramount to the quality of your scent, because if they create the quality of the scent, they create the quality of the fragrance, and the quality of the fragrance then goes into the higher price value, okay? These perfumers are also artists in their own right? Just like how you have Picasso when it comes to painting, just like you have Michelangelo, you have also artists. I always say that fragrance is an art, right? It's an art that is being able to manifest through your olfactory senses rather than through your eyes, right? And so their ability to be able to create unique and balanced scents is highly sought after. And because these people are highly sought after, a fragrance created by a renowned nose can elevate the value of the perfume considerably. All right, many luxury fragrances are hand blended, or they use art, kind of artisanal techniques that are added to the cost, and it's about craftsmanship, not necessarily chemistry, right? A lot of people think that putting notes together and just simply putting things into a vial and blending them is going to create a nice fragrance. It's not. It's more. It's creativity, right? A lot of these master perfumers are artists that take, you know, kind of a concept in their mind and they have to put it together. They have to blend it, try it, fail, try it again, and so therefore you're really being able to see someone's work be manifested. And the more practice you get at anything is going to lead to a better quality result over time, especially once you really get good at your craft, right? Okay, now the next thing we talk about is the packaging and presentation of your fragrance, okay? So the packaging of a luxury fragrance is almost just as important as even the scent itself, right? A high-end perfume is going to come in beautifully crafted. They're going to invest the time into making sure the presentation of your fragrance is really kind of a pleasant and enjoyable one. And it's made from expensive materials like crystals. They have intrinsic designs, make them feel kind of like a work of art. Even when you're talking about the lamination of your boxes, what kind of box does your fragrance come in? Does it come in something that is pure plastic or pure wood, pure cardboard, or is it kind of laminated? Is it smoother? Is it silkier? What is the wrapping in? So just the little things of investing a little bit more in your presentation can really elevate the price of a fragrance that you buy. Because I mean, for many people, I know for me, I always kind of used to joke that every time I buy a new fragrance, especially on a discount, and you get it, it's almost like Christmas morning. You get to unwrap it, you get to kind of unbox it, and those higher quality fragrances, you can definitely appreciate like the work of art. You almost don't want to throw the box away with just like the presentation, how it looks, how it's packaged, the amount of care that was taken and put into it. And then when you unbox it, you get to look at it, you get to smell it, you get to see it. So it is really truly like unboxing, uncovering a work of art, okay? All right, now the fifth reason goes into the brand prestige and the exclusivity. So this is where you're buying the name that is on the box more so than, you know, sometimes the scent at times, right? Brand prestige plays a major role in what a fragrance brand can charge, right? Luxury fragrance houses have decades, if not centuries, of heritage that add to their value. Owning a perfume from a prestigious house is like owning a piece of history. And it is true, right? When you talk about exclusivity is a huge factor, right? Some luxury fragrances are limited edition and they are only available in certain boutiques, which make them highly coveted. They're more exclusive, therefore they're higher price tag, especially when it's a high quality product. So a fragrance that I have in my collection that I talk about all the time is Blue Electric from Yves Saint Laurent. Well, Yves Saint Laurent has been a fragrance brand that has been around for decades. It starts off as a designer clothing brand, and then it evolves into fragrances. And that was one where when it dropped in 2021, a lot of people got their hands on it, but a lot of people waited. I was one of those people who was like, I'll wait till it gets on the discounter. And it was popular, everybody was getting it, all the reviewers were talking about it. I go to try to get it, and bang, it's been discontinued. So now that limited quantity makes that fragrance more sought after. And that's just a designer fragrance. Then, and talk about a lot of these luxury brands. I don't want to just only limit it to niche fragrances, even though a lot of them are going to be in the niche category. But what happens is they say, hey, we're going to drop this flanker and we're going to create a limited edition. They'll put limited edition on the bottle and we're only going to sell maybe 1,000 bottles. Well, if you're one of the millions of people who are into fragrances and you get one of those 1,000 bottles, you have something that many people in the world can say that they don't have. So therefore they can add that higher price tag. Then all you have to do is, if you have a prestigious name like Creed, like MFK, like Bond Number 9, like Killian, like Byredo, like Le Labo, right? And you get a limited edition vintage Le Labo fragrance, you're ahead of the game as far as your collection being better than the next person's. You will also smell better than the next person, and this is something not everybody can get their hands on, okay? So definitely having a nice brand and a nice prestige and exclusivity can really help with the price point and elevating the price point of a fragrance, okay? So there we go, guys. We got 5 for kind of a little bit of fragrance 101, a little bit of a history lesson. So again, first thing is you're gonna look at the nature and the rarity of the note ingredients. Then you're gonna look at the longevity and the complexity of the production process, right? The longer it takes to mature something, the higher the quality, which means the increase in the profile, okay? After that, you're gonna look at the craftsmanship. So how does your bottle, how does your box, how does the presentation of the fragrance look whenever you get it, whenever you look at it, right? After that, you're gonna look at the craftsmanship. You're gonna look at also the perfume expertise. So who is making the fragrance? Who is the person behind the fragrance? Many people don't know who makes their fragrances, but I guarantee you, as you start to acquire some of the top scents, usually the perfumer behind it is either a true expert, and many of the top fragrances in the world are made by the same people, a lot of the same people, especially once you start to really figure that out. And that even can be fun in terms of saying, hey, if I know I like certain fragrances by this one perfumer, you could look at them. I've done that before where I say, let me look and see what all this perfumer has made. And honestly, that kind of adds a level of validation for certain fragrances that you're thinking about trying. Like, well, if I know that this perfumer made it, it's odds are more times than not gonna be a quality fragrance than not. Okay, after you look at packaging presentation, look at who's behind it. The last step up is the brand prestige and exclusivity. If you couple a popular established brand with a master perfumer, with a great concept, with good packaging, and with good quality materials, you're gonna get some of your more pricier fragrances, some of your more popular fragrances ever to exist, okay? There you go, guys. That's how I do it for today. That's my time for today. Get no real fragrance breakdowns, but just a little bit of a history lesson. So when you guys are going out shopping, really think about the fragrances you're looking at, considering buying. When you look at the price tag, does it make you think, okay, this is actually a quality fragrance? This is something you'd be willing to invest the money for or not, okay? But I appreciate all you guys who listened, who came in, who spent some time with me today. Again, remember to like the video, remember to subscribe to this channel down below. Remember to share this video and this page with the fellow fraghead, and we'll catch you on the next one. Much love.